Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach, and today we're going to be talking about decluttering. Now, this is the second part of the series that we're going to be talking about with Tracy McCubbin. Now, if you haven't heard the first episode, I strongly suggest you go and listen to that first before coming and listening to this so that you have continuity. Enjoy. Tracy, bathrooms. I see bathrooms having the most amount of clutter. What do we do about them?
Bathrooms, exactly. Because that's where magical thinking comes in. Ashdin, that's where you think, oh, this potion, this lotion, this is going to make me 15 years younger or 10 pounds lighter, right? That we're so sucked into this idea of anti-aging. That's where we're spending money. And because of that consuming, but there's no magic pill. And so our bathrooms just clutter up. That's just, that's a great, and think about it, you're moving stuff off the counter. And the other thing that I don't think people put together as much, but let's say you have a really cluttered bathroom, so lots of lotions and potions and all that stuff. Every time you go in there, you're looking at the stuff you don't use. And all you're thinking about is, I wasted all that money, right? I spent money and I'm not using the product. So what I want people to do instead of beating yourself up is acknowledge, okay, I bought this stuff. I made a mistake. I'm not going to use it. And remember that feeling the next time you go shopping, right? The next time you're on Amazon and you're going to hit buy now, right? Like, you know what? I just bought a whole bunch of different shampoos and I didn't like any of them. So really use your clutter to help you how you consume.
I went to a friend's house a while back and her basin was just filled with products that had expired. But because she had spent money on them, she couldn't throw them out. Right? Like, are you ever going to use that? Probably not. But then why is it there? I had to buy it, so it's here now.
I call that the snake eating its tail, right? That you spent the money, you weren't really thinking about it. You bought it on an impulse buy. You didn't like it. It's expired, but you're hanging on to it because you feel bad about it. And then all of a sudden you're in this clutter cycle. So I always tell people, look, that's a hard lesson to learn. I made a mistake. We all make mistakes. We're humans. Let me let go of all this stuff because keeping it because I feel bad doesn't mean you're going to use it.
As a habit coach, so one of the ways that I make sure that I stick to my habits is by having the things that I'm trying to create as habits around me on the table. So like my table is full of, little things that I'm going to start creating my habit with. And that slowly starts forming a clutter wherever I'm living. Are there ways to manage that?
I'm a big fan of I like reminders on my phone. I get a little ping like, take your supplements, time to get ready for bed. I like to use, I'm also a big fan, and you must talk about this all the time, of calendaring, calendaring my day out. I like the fact that a sort of to-do list or a calendar is my digital reminder, and then I don't have to have the stuff as the reminder. If I know, okay, I'm going to work out at 6:00 today and it's on my daily sheet, I don't have to leave my workout clothes out. They can be put away. So I like reminders. I like the whole idea of a second brain. Calendar is my second brain. I have alerts in there. I put everything in there. I know where I'm going to be. And I use that to reinforce my habits.
I remember in one of your videos, you're talking about how you use your calendar to tell you when it is time to declutter as well, right? Like set a time for decluttering as well.
Exactly. And that's a great thing that people need to understand, that decluttering needs to become a regular practice. When you start your decluttering journey, you're going to do the big jobs and you're going to spend a weekend doing it and you're going to get all gung-ho. But then as life goes on, you need to make it a regular practice, and there are some big times, like I said, season change. I'm going to spend a day and summer's leaving and fall is coming, but then like weekly, put a regular decluttering practice. I like to tell people on a Sunday, go around your house, tidy up, make a bag of stuff that you're going to let go. And once you get in the habit of it, it becomes regular, as you know. It becomes part of keeping your home tidy to support you. It just becomes like less painful, if you're doing it on a regular basis.
When you're decluttering someone's house, what is the thing that you find the most off in someone's home? Like, oh my God, like you had so much of this. Like, what is it that you find so much off?
Everybody has so much little travel bottles of like shampoos and little soaps that they take from hotels. They all take them and they never use them. And they're like, well, I'm going to use them when I travel. And I'm like, but then you travel to another hotel and you take more. So what I like to do is I take it, I gather it up, and I work with a couple different organizations that help people who are, without homes. And so those are great things to give those kinds of communities. But yeah, it's so funny. Just recently, I was like, why does everyone have these tiny bottles of shampoo and no one uses them?
It is a great point. Many people think decluttering is equal to wasting and throwing, but actually decluttering could be of service to somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if you have these in India. In the United States, we have these amazing things called buy nothing groups. Do you have these?
Oh, no.
Oh, so
what are those?
They're so great. They're mostly popping up on Facebook, but they're ways for people to get rid of things that they're trying to get rid of without an exchange of money. They tend to be in your neighborhood, and people will pop up. Like, there's a perfect example. I decluttered from a job 3-ring binders, the big 3-ring binders, and like 25 of them, brand new, great condition, put them up on my Buy Nothing group. And a professor emailed me. He said, oh, I'm starting my new classes this fall. I was going to go out and buy them. This is fantastic. Drove by and took them. So there really is a great way. We don't want to throw everything in the landfill. So much of this stuff you can give to someone else. My 20-year-old clothes that I can't wear anymore, they go to my niece, so you start with your community, but just know that a lot of that stuff you can find homes for.
Correct. So you can give it to people instead of thinking about, oh, I'm just going to waste it, I'm going to throw it away.
Exactly. And there's another life for it, and I don't know. One of the great things I'm seeing here in the United States is all the young kids, the Gen Zers, they're really into wearing used clothes. They're very mindful of the cycle of fast fashion and how bad it is for the planet and the workforce. And so they're very, very into wearing used clothes, which I think is fantastic. But they think they've invented wearing vintage. I'm like, we've been wearing vintage since the 80s.
Yeah, I think thrift shopping and all of that has, even in India, slowly a friend of mine just started a thrift shop. So that's picking up, I think.
Amazing. I did have a conversation on Instagram with a woman in India because one of the things that we're starting to do more of in the United States is fabric recycling. So we have a couple places that we can take fabric that's stained or ripped, and they're finding a second life for it. And so she was saying that that's just starting to pick up in India too.
Oh, that's very interesting. Mm-hmm. Excuses for not decluttering. What are your favorite excuses that you get?
I don't have the time. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do with the stuff when I get rid of it. And I have answers for all three of those. So I don't have the time. You got to make the time. You've got it, like every habit in your life, you have to make the time. So if you start with your why you want to do this, then you're going to make the time. So calendar it in, Ashdin. Make a date with yourself to declutter. Just like I have to make a date with myself to exercise. I love it once I'm doing it, but if it's not in my calendar, I am not going to do it. So make a decluttering date with yourself. Okay, that's the first one. Second one, I don't know where to start. Start small. That is the step to success. You're not going to declutter your whole house in one day. It's not going to happen. So start with one cupboard, one drawer. And the reason that I tell people to start small is that one, it's doable, it's manageable. It's a lot of like if you're changing your diet and you're like, I'm going to give up sugar, wheat, fat, everything at once. And that doesn't always work. Sometimes you take a little bit out at a time. So if you start small, it's manageable. You're going to do it. And also you're going to feel the rewards. You're going to be a success and you're going to go, oh, this feels great. I love that I can open this drawer and find my scissors when I need them. I'm going to carry this positive feeling to the next, right? So start small. So we're going to make a decluttering date with ourselves. We're going to start small. And then the stuff that you're getting rid of, know where you're going to get rid of it afterwards. So can you give it to a neighbor? Let's say you have kids and now your kids are 10 and 11, but you have clothes from when they were a baby. Is there a neighbor that just had a baby? Is there a cousin that you can pass that stuff along to? Find a place for the stuff you're letting go of to go, and it's going to be easier to let go.
We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side. Welcome back. All right, let's jump into the conversation. Interesting. So you can see the final destination, and you're not going to say, oh my God, now I have 10 bags. I have no idea what to do with them.
Exactly. And then I really think that we have to change. And again, I'm starting to really see it in the United States, but this understanding of like, if something's still good, pass them along to someone who can. We're just so tapped out on our resources on planet Earth right now. Whatever we can reuse, recycle, reduce, let's be a part of that movement.
Tracy, I want to touch upon your latest book, Make Space for Happiness. Firstly, I love the title. I think it's such a good title. But you're talking about happiness. That's such a huge topic in itself, right? And you're talking about making space for it. Can you just explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So during the pandemic, a couple things happened. I've been a professional declutterer for 16 years now. And I watch people declutter and it's fantastic. And they're feeling better and all sorts of amazing things have come out of decluttering. But then I started to notice, especially during the pandemic, people's houses were getting filled back up again. So I wanted to look at the link between us bringing stuff into our house. And what I realized, and I did so much research on the science of happiness. I was really fascinated because it was like, I saw people sort of get happy for a minute when they shopped. And so to go back what we talked about earlier, this idea of this dopamine hit that you get from shopping, a quick hit. It's sort of the same thing with having a cocktail or eating sweets. That first cookie tastes delicious, but the fourth or fifth one, not so good anymore. So we're shopping, we're buying, it's not working. So what I wanted to look at is, how do we create real happiness in our life? What gives us real happiness? And it's pretty simple. It's physical exercise, taking a walk, doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to run an ultra marathon. Physical exercise, being connected to other people. That is they have done so many studies on longevity, and they find that loneliness in seniors and people over 75 is the biggest killer, more than cancer and more than heart disease. Loneliness. So staying connected. So it's exercise, staying connected. It's being of service. This was one of the most fascinating things I read. This is just crazy. Writing a handwritten thank you note. So someone has you over for dinner, you write them a handwritten thank you note. The act of writing that note will increase your dopamine levels for 30 days.
Oh, wow. And imagine we're trying to do that from shopping. This is so much better.
So being of service, that raises our dopamine, helping somebody out, that. And then the last thing, one of the biggest, to help you get to happiness is a gratitude practice. Whether you call it counting your blessings or your gratitude practice, that they have scientifically found that all these negative emotions can't live in your head if you're in a place of gratitude.
And how do we tie all these elements in with our decluttering?
It's so fantastic. So I always say that clutter is a luxury. Cluttering can lead you to a gratitude practice. Like, oh, wow, you know what? I have a good job. I'm able to afford this. Maybe been buying too much, but it starts to have you be grateful for all that you have. Decluttering can be an act of service. Like, for instance, I'm going to give away all my baby clothes, and my new sweet little neighbor just had a baby and she doesn't have to go shopping for new clothes, right? Decluttering's physical, right?
Yeah, it's exercise right there.
Exactly. And then the other way that decluttering can make you be connected. One of the things I love when cluttering with clients is they'll find something and it'll remind them of an old friend. And they're like, I haven't seen that person in a while. Makes you want to reach out. And the biggest thing, and what I really talk about in the book, Make Space for Happiness, is that the stuff won't make you happy. It won't make you happy. It's nice, It makes it fun for a minute. It's not, I like pretty things. I like cute clothes. I love to read books. But at the end of the day, it's, going to visit my brother and my nieces and my nephews and my sister-in-law, taking a walk with the dog and my partner. It's the connection that brings you the lasting happiness. And if you're hiding behind your stuff, so if your house is cluttered because you don't want to necessarily see people or you're using it as an excuse, I invite you to look for that human connection.
How do we actually create that space for that connection? Right?
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful way of thinking about it. That's a penny drop for me as well.
Yeah. How do you create that space to make that connection? Exactly.
Yeah. And how do you bring gratitude into your decluttering? Like when I'm going to declutter now because of all the shopping that I've done, I'll be getting rid of clothes that friends have given me, right? And I can either say, oh my God, I can't get rid of this, so and so give me this. Or I can say, I'm so grateful, so and so gave me this. I'm so happy that somebody else will be able to use it now. I'm going to pass it forward.
That's so great, Ashdin. First of all, I'm so grateful that, my friend John gave me this. And you know what? I haven't seen him in a while. Let me call him up and let's go meet for a cup of coffee, right? So that's going to lead to your connection. I'm so grateful that our friendship was such that he gave me this and I'm going to pass it on to someone who can really use it. I have the ability to purchase these things for myself. I have family members who care about me, really being grateful. And I'm sure you've talked about this on your show, but I encourage all my clients that are starting their journey to do a gratitude journal. So every morning, and I do it myself, first thing, 5 things I'm grateful for. And I will tell you, it's very rarely stuff.
Absolutely. In fact, gratitude is such an important part, of course, of the show. But every time I sign off an email, it's always with gratitude. Gratitude has to be a part of how you live. I think it's so important there.
And that's such a great, when you start to do that little, just 5 things, 5. And when you go back, I'll go back and read mine. And I'm always, even for me, I'm always surprised. Of course, it's things like I have a roof over my head and I have this, but very rarely I'm like, I got that cute sweater at the Gap. I'm never grateful for that.
No, never. And the thing about the, gratitude practice is always, I never make it part of my signature. It's always, I type it out. I am grateful for, thank you. Then, so it becomes a part of you're more in the moment when you're doing that.
Yeah. And, somebody taught me, I don't know if you've ever read a book called The Tools. Have you ever read that book?
No.
It's by this psychiatrist, Dr. Phil Stutz. And it's much about the way your ego gets in your way to keep you from being successful. Like we think our ego, your ego's like, you're so great.
Oh, I need that. The tools.
The tools. It's great. But I worked with him years ago and he was one of the first people I ever heard talk about a gratitude practice. What he loved to do is that when you're like standing in line on the bank or you're at the grocery store, you're sort of waiting in a time when you could be grumbling. Oh, I'm waiting for the bus and this is stop all that and just start listing off things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful my parents are in good health. I'm grateful that I have 2 legs I can walk on. I'm grateful I have clean water. That when you find yourself stepping into a grumbly place, go to your gratitude practice because it's always available to you.
Always available. Tracy, last question.
Oh, we're done already? I could talk to you forever.
Tracy, what are your 3 favorite either decluttering or cleaning or organizing habits that you do personally?
My 3 favorite that I do is for every new thing that comes in, 1 thing goes out. I set aside, I have a regular decluttering practice. So I do it about every 2 weeks. I'll just kind of pick a room in the house and go through it 20 minutes, half an hour and sort of declutter. Like just make sure I'm staying on top of things and just to have it be regular so things that don't get out of control. In fact, we just had a terrible heat wave in Los Angeles and things are cooling off. So my garage is on our next. It's gotten a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
So that for sure that 1 thing that comes in goes out, a regular practice. And for me, I go back to this every time. Take the word need out of your shopping experience. Change it to want. Do it yourself. That language, that flip of that one word is going to change everything because there's so little we need. We need food, we need water, we need connection, but stuff, we don't need that much.
Absolutely. One habit to make sure things don't increase and multiply in your house. One thing to make sure that that clutter doesn't enter. And finally, scheduling your clutter. I think these are 3 fantastic habits that we have. Tracy, how can people get in touch with you, connect with you, continue this conversation?
Oh, fantastic. So Instagram and TikTok. Instagram's my big platform. And in fact, if people want to follow me there, I do these things you can declutter in under 5 minutes. They're great. They're just little nuggets of decluttering so you can knock them out. So I'm Tracy_McCubbin on Instagram, same on TikTok. My website, tracymccubbin.com. I've got an email newsletter. I don't clutter up your inbox too much. And then the new book, Make Space for Happiness, comes out October 4th.
Fantastic. In fact, this is going to come out in time for Diwali here in India. And Diwali is the time when we clean up our house and, freshen the place up. We get rid of all the junk. Everyone's going to be busy decluttering and cleaning up their home. So this is the perfect time to launch it.
Like, is decluttering a part of Diwali? Is that like a part of decluttering during Diwali? I love it. It's
like a new year, right? You're getting rid of the old, bringing in the new.
We're getting ready. Today is Rosh Hashanah here. And so that's in that, in the Jewish tradition, it's a new beginning and out with the old. And I love taking these traditions and holidays and celebrations and like using them, like, let's clear out the old and make space for the new, make space for happiness.
Yeah, exactly. And I always thought it was really fuddy-duddy to, you're going to clean every year. But I think after talking to you, I think it's a fantastic practice to have, just like a deep clean once a year and then make it a habit to continue for the rest of your year.
Exactly. Remember, this decluttering and cleaning your house is self-care. It's one of the best ways that you can take care of yourself, that you have a home that supports you, that you feel good in, that you want to have friends over to. That is self-care.
Okay, sorry. This brought up one more question.
Okay.
This is
I told you.
I promise
we could go on forever.
How do you get your family to declutter? I can break my head against the wall and my dad's not going to do any decluttering. How do you get them to do this?
So there's a couple of things. I tell this all the time. I met my love later in life. He's an amazing human. He's so clean. He takes such good care of our house. He's a little messy. He's a little cluttery. So a couple of things. He has his own space. It's his office. I don't go in there. I don't know what happens. It's fine for him. And then it's about having a conversation about the communal spaces, right? This is the house. And this is really important. Don't focus on the negative. Well, you leave your stuff around and you're messy and it's just going to cause everybody to shut down. I'd like to declutter the house because it will be easier when we need to tidy up. I want to have more friends over. If you can focus on the positive why and what the family will gain by decluttering, then you can get everybody on board. For example, let's say there's someone in your house who loses their keys all the time, right? They can't find their keys. That's a great time to say, if we could get a little decluttered, if we could organize the top of this table in the entryway, you could always put your keys there. You could always find them. You wouldn't have this stress. So it's really, if you have family members who are resistant to it, it's about focusing on the positive instead of making them feel bad.
When I was growing up, my dad had this phrase that he used saying that the top layer of stuff keeps the bottom layer clean. So that was brilliant.
That's genius. He's like, I got it all figured out. I don't know what your problem is.
Tracy, thank you so much for coming on the Habit Coach podcast. I absolutely loved it. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ashdin. Lovely to connect with you. And I hope our paths cross again someday.
Now, if you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am at Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. We have a brand new habit coaching online course, quizzes, videos, and a lot more on the website awesome180.com. So check it out now.